All right, what's going on, LBHT crew? Me and B are back again with another video. Listen, there's no NFL recap this week. I know we only gave you one. I know we said we're going to make it a weekly thing. All right, but we wanted to switch some things up this week. All right, so we are dropping a Panthers video and a Ravens video, kind of giving you our thoughts on the teams, where they're at right now, just our thoughts on the team in general. So, this is the Ravens video. Okay, you guys got a lot of our opinions on the post-game shows for both our teams. We spent more time talking about the Ravens, but we have more opinions, okay? In this video, listen, look, we already talked about the game. We lost to the Steelers. That's whatever. That's over and done with. But the lingering thing, which is something that we've been consistent on since we started this channel, is it is time for John Harbaugh to go. It's time. But I'm gonna throw another person in there. EDC. I think it's time for him to move on as well. We've given him enough time. It's been 5 years, right? It's been 5 years, and what have his players done? We've given them time to let his players develop. We've given them time to see how this team is going to look, and it doesn't look good. We have a player that's great that covers up a lot of our mistakes. We have a defense playing really well. I'll give them that. But without Lamar at quarterback, and I know with most quarterbacks, you don't have your starting quarterback, you don't look particularly great, but swap Lamar out with any quarterback. How are we looking right now?
Yeah.
That's the problem I have. It's rumored that Kirk Cousins is, could be on the trading block because the Vikings aren't looking great. How would he look in this offense? Not good.
No,
Yeah. Joe Burrow. I know Joe Burrow's struggling a little bit, but he's starting to turn things around. I know he was hurt. How would he look in this offense? Not good. And I'm not even disparaging Tom Monken. I don't think Tom Monken is doing a bad job just yet. I'm still kind of reserving judgment a little bit, but I don't think he's doing a terrible job. But it's just, this is how the team has always looked. Doesn't matter who's at offensive coordinator, right? Doesn't matter who we bring in, because we're not bringing in great talent. But we need something different. Okay, John Harbaugh has had 5 years with Lamar Jackson. Okay, history tells us a head coach and quarterback duo through 5 years, if they don't win the Super Bowl, they're probably never going to get it done, right? Yeah. So this is his 6th year. I don't know if we're going to win the Super Bowl this year, but I think this needs to be it. They need to take a hard look at it. I'm not even calling John Harbaugh a bad coach. I'm just saying he's run his course here in Baltimore. It's time for a change. EDC too, man. I don't think they'll both go at the same time, but he needs to start evaluating players and getting players that fit a modern day NFL team.
Yeah, I'll call him a bad coach. He's a bad coach. Now, that doesn't mean he was always a bad coach, but he is today, because he's far too conservative for the way the NFL is now. You can't, and the things that the way he runs the team just doesn't make any sense. That doesn't even get into the fact that they're almost never ready to play.
Yeah,
like they always play down to the level of competition. They always look lifeless out on the field. They're not motivated. They make a ton of mistakes, which falls solely on the coaching staff.
Yes.
But just what is the philosophy in Baltimore, right? Like, what is the identity of the Baltimore Ravens? It's nothing. Not on offense anyway. You say but you don't give the running backs the ball, really. Gus Edwards this past week led the team with 12 carries. Lamar Jackson's led the team in rushing yards the last 4 years.
Right.
So you want to be a run team, but you don't give the ball to the running backs. You want to be a run team, but you don't focus on getting a top tier running back in. You want to be a run team, but you don't focus on improving the O-line, right? To make that happen.
And you want to be a defensive team, but you don't want to put money into the key defensive positions.
Yeah, you want to be a defensive team, but you won't pay edge rushers. You want to be a defensive team, but you won't go out and get that second corner to really solidify the secondary. I think it's really a situation where ego has kind of run amok, right?
Mhm.
They won a Super Bowl 11 years ago now, um, and you can't tell John Harbaugh anything, right?
Right.
He doesn't want, or he doesn't seem like he wants really strong personalities in the locker room. He's not going to change the way he runs the team. We all thought getting Greg Roman out of there was going to improve the offense dramatically, just addition by subtraction, right? With Greg Roman not being there, but
Right.
they look pretty much the same. I mean, it's a little better, I
Yeah.
guess, but they look pretty much the same. You're still running Lamar out there, really relying on him to do everything for you. The team as a whole, and this may not be completely on John Harbaugh, but you're still kind of just relying on ifs with that offense. You didn't go and sign DeAndre Hopkins, who can still play. You went and you signed Odell Beckham, who is coming off a couple major injuries and hasn't really been that guy since like 2016.
Yeah.
There was a lot of hope. We hoped too. Hey, if he comes back healthy, he can be a difference maker. But it hasn't been the case,
No.
right? You don't really see the young players progressing too much in Baltimore, particularly on the offensive side. Rashad Bateman looks like he's going backwards.
Yeah.
And that could just be on Rashad, him losing confidence and things like that. But what is your job as the coach?
Exactly.
Daniel Falalele doesn't really look like he's gotten any better. And it's only his second year, but he doesn't look like he's gotten any better. Obviously, they did nothing with Ben Cleveland. It's like if you don't draft a guy who can play right now, then in Baltimore, they're probably not going to get there. And that's another thing that falls on the coaching staff.
This has been the story with Harbaugh. Really, I mean, this goes before Lamar. This is really after Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, retired. Nada moves on, Suggs moves on. Like as that era of Ravens defense moved on, right? Um, Replacing guys has been a struggle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we've gotten guys with talent, but this team has kind of been hit or miss. It's been off and on. And that's on Harbaugh because guys that are supposed to develop don't quite develop the way they should be, or we are hoping they would be, or we expect them to be. And it continues now. We got lucky with Lamar Jackson. That's what it was. We got lucky with Lamar Jackson. But every year it's, oh, well, we just got to give him time. We got to give him time. You've had 5 years with Lamar. Okay. What happened to Miles Boykin? What happened to Hollywood Brown? Okay. Like what happened to all these players? And we've drafted a lot of players. We brought in a lot of players. What happened to these guys? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what happened to Hollywood Brown. The same thing that happened to J.K. Dobbins, Patrick Queen, Willie Snead, Des Bryant. They all complain about the way that team's being run.
Yes.
Right. And obviously it wasn't just Greg Roman. Greg Roman's gone. Wink Martindale's gone. And Patrick Queen was complaining about it's the same old thing. Right.
Yeah.
It's this stuff that just keeps on happening. There's more miscommunication in the game this past week, according to John Harbaugh. Well, whose job is that? It's you. Okay? You've been a head coach in the league for more than a decade. Why don't you know how to communicate?
And I just think if you look at this wide receiver group, it's definitely better than last year's, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think these guys are better than what they played, definitely better than what they played on Sunday. But overall, it's just a culture that's created on this team, right? Harbaugh said out of his own mouth, he doesn't want great wide receivers.
I'm not going to even worry about convincing anybody to do something. I'm not going to beg anybody to be here. I'm not a college coach, and I don't have to recruit anybody. You want to play in the AFC North? Come here. If you don't, if you're all about stats and numbers and your stat line and how many balls you catch necessarily, and that's all you care for, then there's a lot of other teams you can go play for, and we'll be looking forward to lining up against you.
You know, if you only care about your stats, you know, this is the place for you. You know, whatever nonsense he said. You know, basically saying, hey, if you're a top tier wide receiver, this ain't the place for you. That's essentially what he said. Yeah. All right. And when you do that, you know, then you're getting guys that don't really put a focus on catching the ball. Right. You're getting guys in here that want to play the Raven way. Okay. Good special teams. Make sure you're blocking well, you know, doing those little things. And yeah, get a catch here and there. But if you drop it, yeah, that's all right. That's not really my main job, right? Because we're a run team. I feel like that's kind of how they are. And the guys that do want a bigger role get frustrated, you know? So it's a philosophy by John Harbaugh. He's cultivated this whole culture here, and it's time for a change. This is not a right fit for anybody, especially Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, look, the fact is John Harbaugh has a loser mentality, and it's infected the team, right? He celebrates, you know, the one thing they've always loved in Baltimore, and the fan base buys right into it, is being the underdog, right? They like to go under the radar and all that. But this whole, you know, it ain't pretty, but it's us. Why are you happy about playing ugly football, about being an ugly team? You know, because what that means is, hey, we can't really execute the way a professional team should, but we can sometimes make it so the other team doesn't execute either. And then sometimes we come out on top.
And that's what it is.
And that's how we win. You shouldn't celebrate that. Every team has to win games like that at some point. You know, it happens to everybody. You get into ugly games, you're off. You know, maybe there's injuries, maybe, you know, whatever it is, maybe, you know, back to back on or a long road trip or something like that, and you just don't have it a certain week, and you try to make enough plays to get the win anyway. Yeah. But Baltimore wants ugly games. They want to play ugly. They don't want to score a lot of points, and it doesn't make any sense, and it's not a winning formula in 2023 in the NFL.
No, well, listen, we can go on and on about it. I know we're gonna, you know, there's some people that are going to agree. There's going to be some people that disagree. There's still a lot of John Harbaugh supporters. They're going to bring up his record, which, you know, it's a good record. Mm-hmm. Okay, but at some point, you run your course, right? It's the same thing with Andy Reid in Philly. It was time for him to go. Obviously, Andy Reid's a great coach still. He's won 2 Super Bowls since. But Philly's also won a Super Bowl, and they've been back to another Super Bowl. Both sides are doing great.
And Andy Reid learned his lesson, because when he got to Kansas City, he found his quarterback and he said, "Now put talent around him."
Yes, that's something he never did for Donovan McNabb. And you're right, he did learn his lesson, right? And they traded for Patrick Mahomes, and they immediately made sure that he had what he needed to succeed. Sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need that wake-up call. I think John Harbaugh is way too comfortable, right? And he was almost fired Lamar's rookie year, right? And Lamar turned it around, and we thought then, okay, now he's learned his lesson. But he got comfortable again because Lamar just keeps bailing him out. And I think it's time for a wake-up call.
Like, I can't even describe the level of comfort you have if you go out and sign Melvin Gordon and Kenyon Drake in the same season. You don't care about anything.
Right. If Steve Bisciotti, you know, just walked by him and said, "Hey, listen, it's your last chance," just walked off, you would see some major moves happening. Okay. Yes, if you want to be a running team, get a running back.
Yeah.
All right. Stop playing around with these guys that you think could be this. Oh, I like this guy. We like our guys. Go and get a guy that can carry the load and run the ball, and don't expect Lamar to be your run game.
I mean, you want to talk about how lazy Harbaugh and DeCosta are? Harbaugh puts guys in the doghouse for fumbling, and you went and you got the running back who's known exclusively for fumbling just because you know him.
Well, that's the other thing, right? They get put in the doghouse for fumbling, for personal fouls on defense, things like that. What happens when they drop the ball? Oh, whatever. Just, you know, wasn't our day, I guess.
Yeah.
He blocked really well, though. Yeah, that's that. We can't have that anymore, guys. Now, if we're expecting seriously to win a Super Bowl, right now we don't look like a Super Bowl caliber team. Yes, it's early. Yes, they're gonna go on a run, and you know, Lamar's gonna make us forget about a lot of things. But when we get to the playoffs, these things rear their ugly heads, and we'll be talking about this again. So there has to be a change, and I don't think anybody's getting fired mid-season, but there has to be a change in the mentality. There has to be a change in their philosophy, and even them. We talked about the Panthers needing to do some things by trade deadline. I think the Ravens need to be in that same boat because right now I'm looking at a team that doesn't have any playmakers outside of Lamar. Not one. And that includes Mark Andrews.
And I don't think that they are going to do anything because I'm looking at their schedule. They've got Tennessee over in London. They've got Detroit and they got Arizona. I think they win all three of those games and nobody's talking about this anymore. And that's, that leads right up to the trade deadline. I think Ravens fans are going to be riding high and nobody's going to be saying, get rid of John Harbaugh or we need to go and do this. We need to go and do that coming off the 3-game win streak and nothing will change, but we'll see.
Yeah. All right. We'll wrap it up there. We have a lot more to discuss in terms of the Ravens. But listen, if you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. We do a live show every Wednesday night at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time. We talk Ravens, Panthers, all things NFL, NBA, and combat sports, meaning UFC and boxing. So go and subscribe. Tune in. All right. Also, if you want to support the show, patreon.com/LBHTShow is where you can do that for as little as $5 a month. We have a few tiers, okay? 5, 10, 15, 20, not 15, 5, 10, 20, and $60 tiers. All right. So go check out. We have different perks for each tier. See which one is right for you. And we thank you for the support. And we will see you guys on Wednesday. Peace.